made a camera. I'm a baby. I'm tidy up a lot.
Hello. What fabric to use for sewing clothes? If you are a beginner sewist, you can choose to use woven fabric. So woven fabric, they do not stretch in general. I have an example here of a woven fabric, and woven fabric does not necessarily mean the fiber that the fabric is made out of. You have cotton, for instance, and as a beginner's garment sewer or sewist, I narrow down the fabrics that I'm going to work with. So I chose woven fabric. I will use knitted fabric later because I like the feel of that on my skin, and we do have cotton, I like to call it t-shirt bed sheets. They do not last long. I'll use that for the kids, and when they have hole, I will take it for them. I will wash the old one and I'll put it away, and I plan to sew garment for myself with those one don't know how it's not twin, I think it's twin size bed sheets. But beside that, I buy woven fabrics for sewing home and living product to sell. And now that I start a garment sewing, I'm using woven fabric as well, and especially cotton. So this one I will call a quilting cotton, but I don't know if all of them are quilting cotton. I know that some of them, the box will say quilting cotton, some of them they won't say it. But I like to just call them quilting cotton because they came from the store. And this one I believe will be around 150 GSM, gram per square meter. When they take square meter of the fabric and weight it, how many gram that will be is 150 GSM for most of these type of fabrics that I have. And I like to call them quilting cotton because quilters could use them for their quilt. The design is not too big, they can use that for their quilt. Another I like to call it printed fabric as well, because they have the fabric made woven, and then they print the design on top of it. Therefore the design is on one side but not on the wrong side. The wrong side is kind of white, versus this yellow here, I think it is dyed, the fiber is dyed and then woven, because the right side and the wrong side are the same color, making it hard if you are not paying attention to know the right and the wrong. So I noticed that solid color, even from the store, they have the color inside and out of the fabric. But for the different print fabric, they have it only outside. So we have this blue here, and is the color the same in and out as well. You can see the inside and you can see the outside. So I like to work with woven. I think it's a little bit easier to manipulate or to work with, and as a beginner it is easily accessible at the store, especially the different color, the different prints. They have them quite a bit in the quilting cotton type, compared to when you buy apparel fabrics. You don't have a lot of variety. You can have a solid color quite a bit, but not a lot of design type. Maybe you go to specialty store for that, but usually I notice that the apparel fabric for the fiber cotton that I'm looking for, I don't see the points that I like, a variety of them in that in more them. So quilting cotton about the woven fabric, I pick cotton and I narrow it down to quilting cotton, if I'm just calling it, because it's what they are selling at the store. I'll store-bought fabrics, and I buy fabrics online as well. I bought some that I have not sold yet, but when fabrics are on sale at the store, I like to stock up for different things that I can make to sell. And since I start sewing garment, I'm using those as well. And using quilting cotton, it is, the texture is, the structure is different from some apparel fabrics. So even in the woven fabrics, it is my first pick to work with, but I chose the fiber first. So for fibers, you have cotton, you have silk, you have, I'm talking about the natural fiber. You have cotton, you have silk, you have wool, and so I narrow, you have linen. So I narrow it down to cotton and linen. So within cotton, you have knitted fabric, you have woven fabric. So I chose woven fabric. And in the linen category, I chose woven fabric as well. And 100% linen, 100% cotton. So now a more woven fabric in the cotton fiber category, I chose quilting cotton as my primary fabric to work with, so that I can see the different garment that I can construct using this readily accessible fabric that I can access, I can buy on a budget because they are not expensive, that I can work with to keep learning to sew and keep improving. So I'm sewing for my children, and 2 of them are close to teenage age. Therefore, because they are kids, they are growing fast. So by sewing for them is like going to sewing school, because I keep designing the pattern. They are changing size. I keep designing redesigning the pattern to fit their, to fit their new size, and then I'm sewing. So they are growing their clothing fast. But I noticed that what I'm sewing is lasting a little bit longer for them than when I used to buy from the store for them. But because I sew a little bit bigger for them. So, but they still are growing their things. Their pants will be shorter and things like that. So that means I don't have to worry about whether it's going to last or not. But I have noticed that it can dull a little bit, or in fact everything that I wash can become dull over time, but it's not the point. The color can fade a little bit for some of them, not all of them necessarily, but for some of them. And I sew napkin out of printed fabric, but some of them the color does not fade at all, even though we use those cloth napkin for school lunch. We stencil quite a bit on a regular weekly basis, and we wash them weekly. They are not fading. But I would say for a room of stone, is good to think it's going to, it can fade. So that means it may not last long, but still, because I'm sewing for kids, it will last long enough for them to outgrow it. So I like to know the different type of styles that I can sew using quilting cotton. So by focusing on it, I can get more creative. So beside quilting cotton, I purchased broadcloth that I like to work with, so that I can see, ask feedback from the kids to see which one they like the feel of on their skin. Broadcloth, poplin. Poplin is one that I like to focus on as well, because I think I can find a lot of color in poplin. So poplin and twill for pants, and I purchased corduroy for pants as well. So for blouse, broadcloth, poplin, I purchased double gauze as well to work with, to see how it'll be easy for me to sew it. Keep in mind that double gauze can stretch a little bit. Have not sewed with it yet to know how it's going to work, but I have that as well. But poplin and broadcloth are the two that I like to focus on for blouse, because the broadcloth and the poplin, I think quilting cotton can be between both of them. So what I do when I buy those things, I tend to look at the GSM if they have GSM, and I know that my quilting cotton GSM is 150, 140 to 150. So if poplin is 150, then that'll be about the same texture. If it's 130, then it'll be softer. So the lower the GSM, the see-through it can be, and the drapier it can be, the fabric can be, the woven fabric can be. So but it can be see-through. So the higher the GSM, the thicker the fabric is. You cannot see through, and more structured the fabric is as well. And so if it's heavier, you choose what you'll be able to sew out of it. So this one is maybe 230 GSM. I sew bags out of those, and I carry to sew pants for my son. And I have flannel that is on my list of cotton woven fabric to work with as well. So I cut some pants here to sew for my son, and I will for him to try and see if he likes the feel of it. But then I have it in flannel as well for him. Since we are getting close to winter time, flannel will be softer on him, on his skin. For quilting cotton, I sew blouse with it, I sew pants with it as well. One thing, since a quilting cotton is about 150 GSM, is structured enough that it holds weight, its weight. So by focusing on, few fibers and few fabric types to work with, I'll be able to drill it down a little bit to see the fabric, to see what garment I can sew from which fabric. So a quilting cotton, this one for instance is kind of light, but around 150 GSM, is structured. Therefore this year I'm trying to cut the blouse in bias, and I have an example here. Let's take another one that will be last year. I cut the blouse that I sew my children straight. And when you cut a textured, a structured fabric straight, and you do not put that, you don't have opening, button or zipper, you can have volume in the outfit. Therefore, and because I'm a beginner sewer and I do not want to deal with that zipper or button at this stage, I want to sew blouse with no that, no zipper, no button. With a quilting cotton is a little bit boxy. It looks great on them, especially when they tuck it in, because I have sleeveless top, and then I have some sleeve one as well. But this year, because I'm focusing on quilting cotton and I'm trying to improve what I'm sewing with it, I chose to work in bias, because a structured fabric, it does not stretch on the length. When you buy the fabric is like this. So the width is folded in two, and then you have the length. When you pull on the length, it does not stretch. But if you pull, that's the way I'm explaining it. If you open the width and you pull on it, you will see a little bit of give. So I would like to say it stretches on the width, but does not stretch on the length of the fabric. Some people might explain it the opposite way, but that's the way I'm explaining it, because it comes like this, and then they will measure it and carry the length you want. So that does not stretch. But when you open the fabric where you have the selvage together, when you open it and you pull on it, you will have that stretch. So for pants, I had to see where the stretch is, because I want the width of the pants to be cut on this side, and then the length of the pant to be on this. So I'll have the pant long like this pattern laying down on it like that, so that the width of the pant from side to crouch can be on this side of the fabric. So for a fabric that is this structured, when you, let's say it is a square, the middle line from one corner to one corner, 45-degree angle, is going to make a bias, and that bias diagonal line, anything you cut along that line will be on bias, will be stretchy. So if I fold this one, the way I fold it, you will see that I have more give on this side of the fabric. So I've been folding my fabric on the bias, and I'll put the pattern on it. I'll put the top on it. If I take an example of a top here, I will put the folded side of the pattern, which is the middle of the body. I will put it along the folded side, since I'm not going to have an opening, and then I will cut it. So by having the fabric in this layout, you can see it is going to drape. It's not going to hold its way straight down the way the one that I saw last year did, but it's going to drape down because of the bias diagonal shape that I cut it in. So this year I decided to cut the blouses, no dot, no, lower the volume, no dot, no zipper, no button. I like to cut it in the bias, because without having opening, the collar need to be wide, the bust will be with ease, but then the waist cannot be cinched in to mold the body. It needs to be as big as the bust, so that when it's going through the head, the waist area is going to go through the shoulder, the bust, before it gets to the waist. And if we think this through as well, the hip will go to all the way as well. But the smallest part of the body is the waist also. Therefore, we cannot make it smaller to shape the body, but it has to be at least the same size as the bust, so that it can go through the head, the shoulder, the bust to get to the waist. And not having opening, it has to go through the head, and not having that to shape the waist. It can be a little bit boxy on the top, but carrying it on the bias makes that structured fabric holding its way to drape nicely. And that is the strategy I'm using this year. It uses more fabric, but I'm fine with it. By narrowing down my choices to those type of woven fabric and which type of woven fabric to use allow me to get more creative and see what I can create. But that's just a personal choice. And from there I can move to the knit fabric as well. And I have to say, since I saw growing up middle school, I work with woven fabric, not knitted fabric or stretchy fabric. Therefore, I had to say I never really saw a stretchy fabric before or a knitted fabric before. I always work with woven fabric because I learned how to sew garment in middle school, high school, and then 2 years in college, going to a tailor's shop during summer, part-time summer. But yeah, I didn't work with knitted fabrics, and then I stopped sewing, and then I started sewing home and living products for our house is with woven fabrics. And now that I'm sewing garment again for our kids is woven fabric. I sew diaper cloth for them. I work a little bit with bamboo, and 100% bamboo can be stretchy, but I didn't have any problem sewing with regular needle and sewing those bamboo into diaper, cloth diaper for the kids. But I didn't really think of it any differently. To me, it was just a fabric. But now that I'm taking back, is 100% bamboo is a little bit stretchy. But I work more with a blended bamboo and cotton when I was making diapers for the kids, and I use fleece for the polar fleece for the cover as well, and wool. I didn't use much of wool, but I use more polar fleece. But for their clothing, I'm trying to use 100% cotton, and that's how I'm choosing the fabrics to use to sew clothes. Thank you so much for watching. And I bought linen, but I have not used it yet. So, but yeah, you can just see, you know, I try to have a library of information on what I can sew with which fabrics. And I know that with quilting cotton, I can sew blouse, I can sew camisole, I can sew dresses, I can sew skirt, I can sew pants, but I like to view it as more as the GSM of the fabric as well. With twill, or you can just go with the woven type. With twill, you can sew pants because it's kind of heavier GSM, more structures. You can sew pants with it, you can sew a jacket with it. I sew bags with it, I sew pants with it. And with broadcloth that I purchased at Poplin, I like to sew blouse with those, skirt with those. And something I like to point out as well is quilting cotton is 44 inches wide, but apart of fabric, you can find longer width of the fabric as well. But yeah, and corduroy, you can sew pants, at least corduroy, twill, I'm buying them, and linen, I'm buying them for more for the bottom, and jackets, and then use the lighter GSM fabrics, woven fabrics, to sew the top. And that is what I'm trying to do. But that's how, but I have a spreadsheet where I will put down the different type of fabrics, especially woven fabrics, and what you can make out of them, because people share their experience, what they make out of what. And depending on how it looks, if they show the picture or the video of it, you can take note of what you think can work. And this top, for instance, is made out of, you know, just again what I would call quilting cotton, or I would just say printed fabric, and it's carrying the bias, and I add more flare at the bottom, and you can see it that because there is no dot or opening, there is no dot, the chest and the waist are kind of straight rectangle shape little bit before it flare out at the waist down. And we added the waist ties to mold the blouse around the waist to create the waist cinch in impression. But yeah, so that is a good looking blouse that we sew using our pattern. We just cut it in the bias, folding the fabric in the bias to cut, and add more flare to it on the fabrics to cut. And we use the blue for the accent trim for the fabric that my daughter picked to go with. So that's an example of using printed fabric that you can buy at the store to sew a blouse. Cutting it in the bias, make a drape, and because it's structured fabrics, it can actually hold that drape well. And if you cut circle, a bias top or a circle top or things like that, the drape will be it will hold that drape in a certain way as well, compared to, you know, other type of more drapier fabric. So, and you have to see what you can sew out of them. For instance, I don't want to gather the top for it, because this kind of structured fabric is going to hold the weight. In my look voluminous. If that's what you are looking for, that's fine, but I want that to drape, to mold the body a little bit, since I'm not putting that and I'm not sewing it in, since I don't have opening. So I want that to drape, to mold the body a little bit. So the bias was an option for me, and I like the pli as well. The pli looks great with the structure fabrics. It holds the pli well, and I like that. But gathering might be good voluminous, but it's not really what I'm looking for. So if you like those kind of voluminous type of outfits, you can give it a try, because it will hold it for you. So it'll give that impression of being voluminous, if that's what you are for. But the drape is what I'm trying to achieve with a structured fabric that is now see-through. It's a little bit see-through, but not much. But, and you know, so, and it's easily accessible at the store. With those printed fabric, you can get a lot of variety of colors from the store. So thank you so much for watching. What is your chosen fabric to sew clothes with? Thank you for watching our videos. We thank you very much for your time. We thank you very much for all your comments. We thank you very much for that subscribe to our channel. I'm Afiavi Liberman, Cross of Liberman Consulting L.L.C YouTube channel, and in soap.com, our blog. On our channel and on our blog, we share different ways you can save money and different ways you can make money to reach your financial independence, where you do not depend on an employer to provide for your family. And sewing your own garments is one way to save money. With quilting cotton or printed fabrics that you can find at the store, sometimes they mark it down, and when they mark it down, you can, you know, you can save money making your own garment depending on what you choose. For instance, this was $2 a yard, I believe, and with solid color about $2 a yard as well. And you can sew your own garment it just keep in mind that it can fade easily. But again, since if you are a beginner sewer, then it just gives you more work to practice sewing so that you get good at it. But yeah, and some of them they don't fade. So when they fade, it doesn't fade much as well. But it saves money to sew your own garments if that's what you wanted to do. And some take it even further by buying thrifted garment that they can recycle or upcycle to make something completely different out of it. That's a different type of skill, and I don't do that. I don't know how to do it yet, but sewing from scratch is what I'm trying to focus on at the moment. Buying the fabric, design my own pattern, cut the fabric, and sew. Thank you. And with kids that are growing very fast, well, it's saving me money by sewing for them and learning the skill at the same time and sharing it with you. Thank you.